Welcome to the deep dive, everyone. We're going to take a deep dive into a mystery that's been unfolding right here in the U.S. The unidentified drones over New Jersey.
Yeah, for weeks now. There have been these reports of these large, dark drones flying mostly at night. Some witnesses have even described them with their lights off, which I think just adds a really creepy layer to the whole thing.
It is unsettling for sure. And what makes these sightings even more interesting is that they started showing up near sensitive locations.
Exactly. Places like the Picatinny Arsenal, which is a major military research facility, and even President-elect Trump's golf course. That definitely makes you wonder a bit and adds a layer of intrigue, let's say.
Absolutely. And since then, since those initial sightings, it seems like the number of these drone flights is increasing.
Yeah, and people are getting nervous, which I think is understandable.
It is. So what do we know about the drones themselves? Are we talking about just your average, off-the-shelf kind of models?
Not really. These drones are described as being much larger than your typical hobbyist drone, They're estimated to be about 6 feet in diameter.
Wow, so that's pretty substantial.
Yeah, it's pretty big. And plus, their flight patterns are unusual, They're not the kind of thing you would expect from someone just messing around out for a casual drone flight.
So we've got large, unidentified drones flying near these sensitive locations, and their flight patterns are unusual. And they're often flying with their lights off. This is like straight out of a movie or something.
You're not wrong. And without any clear answers, it's not surprising that people are starting to come up with their own theories about what's going on.
So let's break that down a little bit. What are some of the leading theories out there, and how plausible are they?
Well, I think on one end of the spectrum, you have people who think this is just, some harmless hobbyist pushing the limits, maybe having a little fun, maybe enjoying the attention a little bit.
Okay, that's certainly one possibility. What about the other end of the spectrum? Are there any theories that lean towards something a bit more sinister, I guess?
Oh, there are. And this is where things get really interesting. Some people think these drones could be involved in surveillance, either by a private entity or even a foreign government.
I can see why that theory would gain some traction, considering they're being seen so close to places like the Picatinny Arsenal. So what are the authorities saying about all this? Have they been able to figure out who's behind these drones?
Not yet. The FBI is investigating. They're asking anyone who might have information to come forward, especially, if they have any photos or videos of the drones. But so far, it seems like they haven't been able to pinpoint who is operating them or what their purpose is.
So we're left with a lot of questions and not a lot of answers. What about the Department of Homeland Security? Are they involved as well?
Yeah, they've been briefing local officials on the situation, but again, no concrete answers. The fact that both the FBI and DHS are involved does suggest that they're taking this seriously, though.
I would hope so. This isn't, just some kids playing around with toys in the park. We're talking about large, sophisticated drones operating in potentially sensitive airspace.
Right, and I think that's a key point, This situation really highlights the fact that we're still figuring out how to deal with the rapid evolution of drone technology.
It's almost like the technology has outpaced our ability to regulate it and monitor it. So what are some of the challenges that authorities are facing, when it comes to dealing with something like this?
Well, for one thing, drones are pretty small and they can be really hard to track, especially at night. And then there's the issue of, figuring out who's operating it. Unless you actually catch someone in the act of launching or landing the drone, it can be very tricky to link it back to a specific person.
Sounds like a logistical nightmare. So while the authorities are busy investigating, what about the people who actually live in these areas? How are they reacting to all this?
I think it's a mixed bag. Some people are understandably concerned, especially those living near the sensitive locations. They're worried about their safety and their privacy. Others are more curious than anything else. They want to know what these drones are doing, who's behind them, and why they're flying over their neighborhoods.
I imagine there's a lot of speculation and probably even some conspiracy theories floating around.
Oh, absolutely. This kind of situation, it's just, it's ripe for speculation. People love a good mystery. And this one, it has, all the ingredients. Unidentified objects, nighttime flights, sensitive locations, government secrecy. It's like a recipe for a viral conspiracy theory.
Okay, well, before we go too far down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories, let's bring it back to reality for a second. what are the actual risks involved here? Are these drones a legitimate threat to public safety?
That's the million-dollar question, and unfortunately there's no easy answer. Authorities have said that they don't believe the drones pose a direct threat to public safety at this time. But...
There's always a but, isn't there?
Well, they've been careful to emphasize that this is just, their initial assessment. And the truth is that the situation is still evolving. The truth is, a drone could be used for a lot of different things, from, surveillance to carrying harmful payloads. It's hard to know for sure.
So while the authorities are trying to, kind of downplay the risks, there's still a lot of uncertainty. And that uncertainty is probably what's fueling a lot of the fear and speculation,
Exactly. When people don't have clear answers, they tend to fill in the blanks themselves. And that's when, that's where the conspiracy theories start to take root.
Understandable. So we've covered a lot of ground already, from the initial sightings to the theories and the potential risks. What do you think is the most important takeaway for our listeners so far?
I think the key takeaway is that this situation is a wake-up call. It really highlights the fact that drone technology is, evolving rapidly, and our laws, our regulations, they're struggling to keep pace. I think we need to have a serious conversation about how to manage this technology responsibly, both, to harness its potential, but also to mitigate the risks.
That's a great point. And that's a conversation that needs to happen at all levels, from local communities to national governance. We need to figure out how to balance the benefits of drones with the potential threats they pose. But I think we've probably covered enough ground for now.
Yeah, I think so.
So let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll dig a little deeper into the political ramifications of this whole drone mystery. We'll explore how lawmakers are responding to this incident and what kind of policies they're considering to address the challenges posed by drone technology. Don't go anywhere.
As this drone situation keeps unfolding, it's really raising a lot of questions about how we regulate and monitor this technology.
Yeah, it definitely feels like we're in uncharted territory.
In a way, yeah, I think we are. I mean, drones are still relatively new, at least in terms of widespread use. And the laws and regulations, well, they're still catching up.
So while the authorities are trying to figure out who's behind these drones, what are lawmakers doing on the policy front?
Well, there's been a lot of talk about tightening drone regulations because of these incidents.
What kind of regulations are we talking about?
Well, some lawmakers are proposing stricter registration requirements for drones.
Okay.
The idea is that if every drone is registered, it would be easier to track down the owner if there's any suspicious activity.
Right, that makes sense. It's like having a license plate for your drone.
Exactly. Others are calling for stricter rules about where drones can and can't fly. For example, establishing no-fly zones around sensitive locations like military bases, government buildings, places like that.
So kind of like creating these virtual fences in the sky?
Precisely. And then, of course, you always have the privacy concerns. Drones with cameras, they can collect a lot of data, which raises questions about how that information is used and who has access to it.
Yeah, that's a huge concern. I mean, people have a right to privacy, even in their own backyards, right? It's not like we want to live in a world where drones are constantly watching us.
Absolutely. And that's why some lawmakers are pushing for regulations that specifically address drone surveillance, like requiring warrants for drone surveillance or, limiting what kind of data drones can collect.
It sounds like there's a lot to consider. It's not just about, stopping the bad guys, but it's also about protecting the rights of everyday people.
It is. It's a delicate balancing act. We want to make sure that that law enforcement has the tools they need to keep us safe, but we also want to make sure that our privacy and our civil liberties are protected.
So how do you see this all playing out? Do you think these drone incidents will actually lead to any significant changes in how we regulate drones?
It's hard to say for sure, but I think it's very likely. I mean, this is a wake-up call not just for lawmakers, but for all of us. Drone technology is here to stay, and it's only going to get, more prevalent and more sophisticated in the coming years.
So we need to start thinking about these issues now before it's too late, before we're caught completely off guard.
We do. We need to have these, these open and honest conversations about the potential benefits and risks of drone technology. We need to develop sensible regulations, that strike the right balance between security, privacy, and innovation. And I think we need to, educate ourselves about our rights and our responsibilities as, as drone users, but also as citizens.
Well said. It's not just a matter for the government to figure out. It's something we all need to be involved in. But speaking of the government, let's talk about the political side of things for a moment. This drone mystery has become quite a hot potato, hasn't it?
It has. And it's playing out against this already very polarized political climate.
Yeah, that's true. So what are some of the key political fault lines that this issue has sort of exposed?
Well, for starters, you have the usual suspects. National security versus civil liberties. Some lawmakers are calling for a much more aggressive approach, arguing that, that we need to do whatever it takes to track down these drones and neutralize any potential threat.
Even if it means bending the rules a bit.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
They argue that these drones could be, they could be a sign of something bigger, like a more organized effort to probe our defenses or, even carry out attacks.
And on the other side of the aisle,
you have lawmakers who are more cautious. They emphasize the importance of due process, civil liberties.
Yeah.
They argue that we shouldn't overreact to a few unexplained drone sightings and that, we need to be careful not to erode our freedoms in the name of security.
Yeah, it's a classic dilemma, isn't it? How do you balance the need for security with the protection of our freedoms?
It is, and it's a dilemma that we'll probably continue to grapple with as drone technology continues to advance. But I think this drone incident has also exposed another political fault line, federal versus state authority.
How so?
Well, you have some lawmakers, mostly at the state level, who are pushing for more local control over drone regulations. They argue that the federal government shouldn't have a monopoly on drone policy, and that states should be able to enact their own rules, based on their specific needs and concerns.
Right. So it sounds like a states' rights issue.
In a way, it is, and it's an issue that's likely to gain more traction as drones become more commonplace. States are already starting to experiment with their own drone regulations, and we'll probably see more of that going forward.
So this isn't just a technological issue; it's also a political one, with implications for the balance of power between the federal government and the states.
Absolutely. And I think it's a good reminder that technology often has a way of disrupting the status quo, and it forces us to rethink our assumptions about how we govern ourselves.
This is all really fascinating stuff, but I'm curious to get your take on something. We've talked a lot about the potential risks of drones, but what about the other side of that? What are some of the potential benefits of this technology?
That's a great question. It's easy to get caught up in all the fear and hype surrounding drones, but it's important to remember that they can also do a lot of good.
Yeah, what kind of good are we talking about?
Well, for starters, drones can be incredibly useful for things like, search and rescue operations.
Okay.
They can cover a lot of ground quickly, and they can provide those aerial views that would be difficult or impossible to get otherwise. They can also be used to inspect infrastructure like bridges, power lines, pipelines, things like that. And that can help to identify potential problems before they turn into major disasters.
So they're like these flying eyes in the sky,
yeah,
helping us to see things that we wouldn't normally be able to see.
Exactly. And then there are, the commercial applications. Drones are already being used for things like package delivery, aerial photography, and even, crop dusting.
So they have the potential to really revolutionize a wide range of industries.
They do. And as the technology keeps developing, we're likely to see, even more creative and innovative applications.
It sounds like drones are kind of a double-edged sword. They have this potential for both good and bad, depending on how they're used.
That's a good way to put it. And that's why it's so important that we're having these conversations now. We need to be thoughtful. We need to be deliberate about how we integrate this technology into our lives, both as individuals and as a society.
We need to make sure that we're the ones in control, not the other way around.
Exactly. We need to, harness the power of drones for good, but we also need to, to mitigate the risks, and we need to do it in a way that respects our values and protects our freedoms.
It's a tall order, but it's one that we can't afford to ignore.
I agree. The future of drone technology is, it's still being written, and it's up to all of us to make sure that it's a future that benefits humanity. But for now, let's turn our attention back to this mystery. What are some of the more intriguing theories that have emerged about these New Jersey drone sightings?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. We were just about to get into some of the more, well, colorful theories about these New Jersey drone sightings.
Yeah, let's explore the more speculative side of this whole mystery.
All right, hit me with it. What are some of the wildest ideas you've heard?
Well, you've got everything from the classic government conspiracy theories,
Right.
with people suggesting that these drones are part of some top secret surveillance program.
Yeah, I can't say I'm surprised. Secret government programs always get people talking.
They do. And then there are the more, I guess you could say, out there theories. Like, some people believe that these drones are, they're extraterrestrial in origin.
Aliens. Are you serious?
Hey, I'm just telling you what I've heard.
Yeah.
Some people, they think that these drones are being used by aliens to study human behavior or even prepare for an invasion.
Okay, so that's definitely getting into the realm of science fiction. But I guess it wouldn't be a true mystery without a few alien theories in the mix.
That's true. And then you have the more, the more technologically minded people who suggest these drones could be part of some elaborate hoax, like a social experiment.
Right, like someone's just seeing how much they can get away with or how people react to to the unknown.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like the digital age equivalent of crop circles.
So we've got government conspiracies, we've got alien invasions, we've got elaborate hoaxes. It's like a whole buffet of conspiracy theories.
It is, and it's a good reminder that people often they look for explanations that kind of fit with their existing beliefs.
That makes sense. I mean, if you already believe in like government cover-ups, then these drones are just they're just more evidence to support your beliefs.
Exactly. And the same goes for, people who believe in extraterrestrial life or people who are generally skeptical of authority.
It's interesting how these these mysteries can really tap into our deepest fears and our fascination.
It is. They force us to confront the unknown, right? And to deal with these questions that don't always have easy answers.
I guess that's part of what makes them so compelling to us. We're drawn to the mystery, even if it means getting into some pretty wild speculation.
Right. There's something very human about wanting to understand the world around us, even when it means embracing things that are strange, that are unexplained.
Well, on that note, I think we've covered just about everything there is to cover on this whole drone mystery. We've gone over the facts, the theories, the politics, the potential implications.
Yeah, I think so. I think we've really taken a deep dive into this whole fascinating and evolving story.
So what's a final takeaway for our listeners? What should they be thinking about as they keep following this story?
I think the most important takeaway is that we're living in a time of, really rapid technological change.
Right.
And with that change comes a whole host of new challenges, but also, new opportunities as well.
Yeah, it's like we're constantly playing catch up, trying to adapt to a world that's changing faster than we can fully understand.
I think that's a good way to put it. And this whole drone phenomenon, it's a perfect example of that. Drones are becoming more and more sophisticated, more and more commonplace. And we're still figuring out how to deal with them. Yeah.
We're still trying to figure out how to regulate them, how to monitor them, and how to make sure they're being used, responsibly and ethically.
Exactly. And that's a conversation we all need to be a part of. We need to be, informed. We need to be engaged, and we need to be proactive in shaping the future of this technology.
We need to make sure that that this technology is used for good and not for harm, and that it doesn't take away any of our privacy or our freedoms.
Well said. The future of drone technology is it's still being written, and it's up to all of us to make sure that it's a future that benefits humanity. On
that note, I think we'll wrap things up for today. But keep your eyes on the skies, folks, and keep those critical thinking skills sharp. You never know what mysteries might be lurking just beyond the horizon.